Patents, the bedrock of innovation and human advancement. Also the bedrock of profiteering off the sale of goods humanity desperately needs. We've got a vaccine, and that's a great way to start off 2021, even though time is just a manufactured mode of organization that ceased to mean anything in 2020. Having a vaccine is great news. It's needed news. But it's brought up an important, if weird, question. Who gets to own it? Hey guys, I'm Sana. I'm not vaccinated yet, and today we're going to be talking about vaccine patents and how they could stand in the way of eradicating COVID-19 from the face of the earth. And since you're here, be sure to subscribe to AJ Plus and like this video. It'll keep me employed. Thanks. Something really remarkable happened in the early 1950s. In a post-World War II, smack dab in the middle of a Cold War world, this man, Dr. Jonas Salk, created a vaccine for a viral disease that had plagued humanity for thousands of years: polio.
Newest miracle, the Salk anti-polio vaccine.
He became an overnight celebrity, but he wasn't doing it alone. His contemporary, Dr. Albert Sabin, created the oral vaccine for polio a few years later. Between the work of these two men, we've seen the near elimination of polio. And also between these two men, we've seen how effective and powerful putting people over profits can be. See, neither Salk or Sabin patented their vaccines, and Sabin, who donated his vaccine to the World Health Organization, is credited for having near eliminated polio globally.
Unless the oncoming generations of children are vaccinated with oral vaccine on a much larger scale than they are now, it will come back, because there are still many millions and millions of people who are not protected against polio, and the viruses could start spreading and circulating again.
Who owns the patent on this vaccine?
Well, the people, I would say. There is no patent. This is... Could you patent the sun?
Now, of course, you can't compare a vaccine to the sun. One is created by the human mind and medical innovation, and the other can give you cancer and wrinkles because you decided sunscreen was too much effort. It's never too much effort. It takes like a second, guys. Please wear sunscreen. But in both those interviews, Salk and Sabin underscore two of the strongest arguments against patenting a vaccine. We cannot eradicate a viral infectious disease without mass, and thus accessible, vaccination. And that vaccines are for the benefit and continuation of human life. Patenting a vaccine means you're establishing a monopoly over something deemed an invention, intellectual property. That means you have exclusive rights to it, and then you can sell your intellectual property to buyers at a cost determined by you. The argument for patenting is pretty straightforward. Patenting breeds medical innovation because it creates a competitive race with financial rewards. And without financial incentives, why would anyone even disclose their vaccine? Like, what's the point of saving humanity then if you're not making money? And that's because the vaccine landscape has changed since Salk and Sabin's time. As we gear up for the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, it's becoming more and more apparent how much of a role money plays in the vaccine industry. And that hurts my heart, man. Like, vaccines, I'm out here defending you against anti-vaxxers and you're focused on making profits? Come on, guys. Come on. In October of 2020, India and South Africa, two countries hit hard by COVID, put forward a proposal calling on the World Trade Organization to suspend patents on the COVID vaccines. Their argument was, hey, we don't want these rich countries to monopolize the vaccines and technology transfer. We want more collaboration. We want sharing. That would mean that instead of waiting in line for their turn, more countries and companies can start making the vaccine, often at a lower cost, instead of just it being in the hands of a handful of players. And that would mean not only accessible and widespread inoculation, but also speeding up the timeline in controlling this pandemic, which could send an estimated 150 million people around the world into extreme poverty by 2021. But where's the money in that? Their call received pushback from not only the pharmaceutical industry, but also straight out rejection from high-income countries such as the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and Norway, which made the usual "won't somebody think of the incentives" argument. This artificial scarcity and profit privileging is just par for the course at this point for pharmaceutical companies and the rich countries that house them. Vaccine development is now more commonly handled by governments and pharmaceutical companies rather than the nonprofits of the past. Some of the top vaccine patent holders are the United States and the UK pharmaceutical company GlaxoSmithKline, and that monopoly does have an impact on actual human lives. In 1998, 40 pharmaceutical companies, including GlaxoSmithKline, blocked the South African government from buying cheaper medicine for HIV/AIDS, while millions in the country were suffering from the virus. The pharmaceutical companies spent millions building a legal case to deny treatment to poor people because the poor bring no profits. This resulted in international backlash, which caused them to step back a bit, but not before their incredibly brave and noble quest to keep life-saving drugs from the poor had resulted in thousands of possibly preventable deaths. See, in practice, the mantra that intellectual property advocates point to, that competition breeds innovation, isn't so true, because it can actually stifle innovation and collaboration. Competition makes pharmaceutical companies more protective of and reliant on their tried and true cash cows, to the point where innovation is more often seen as a risk that should be avoided. This also skews the research of pharmaceutical companies. Since profit is the main driving force, more than the desire to save human lives, research is then conducted to maximize profit more than develop new and better treatments. And that also means focusing on what's new and sexy in the disease world, and what's inflicting the rich especially. I mean, would we even have had a polio vaccine had the American president at the time not believed he had polio? The world hasn't seen a new class of antibiotic in nearly 4 decades simply because it just isn't profitable to develop a new one, even when we have drug-resistant superbugs spreading. And you don't have to take my word for it. Multiple studies conducted to understand this trend away from innovation found that since 1999, the, quote, average novelty of drugs has declined. Innovative drugs are less likely to be approved by the FDA, and so pharmaceutical firms are more likely to work on incremental changes to drugs than innovative treatments. This means it only makes sense to develop new drugs when you know their approval and subsequent sale will be amazing. Then there's the money, like the real money. It's estimated that in 2021, Pfizer alone could be making about $14 billion in profit from the COVID-19 vaccine. And you might say, well, okay, Sana, but that money will then go to more needed research and development of other vaccines and treatments for diseases. Not quite. Almost every major company that's been working on a COVID vaccine has had its research and development funded by governments. Check out this BBC chart which highlights how much out of the total funding came from governments. Look closely at Moderna and BioNTech, which is partnered with Pfizer. Plus, a lot of money that Big Pharma also makes in profits goes towards marketing, not just research and development. And pharmaceutical companies these days privilege treatment over prevention anyways. That's because preventing diseases isn't as profitable as getting you hooked on the drugs you need to treat your diabetes or heart disease or high cholesterol. Unless, of course, that preventative treatment is something billions of people will absolutely need to function in society and keep the economy going. Also, like, the way patents function and play out in the United States is so gross and so obviously driven by the desire for profit. Patents do have an expiration date in this country, about 20 years after they're first approved. After that, we see generic brands pop up like CVS or Walgreens, and they're cheaper. But Big Pharma still has ways around it, whether extending the patent by up to 5 years through some really lame loopholes or making pay-to-delay deals with generic brands in which they pay off smaller companies not to manufacture generic versions so that the original drug stays firmly and artificially high-priced. And yeah, that's very illegal in some states. And when all that fails, they just straight up try to block cheaper distribution, like in the South Africa case. It's possible to rid the world of a disease if the will is there. Look at how smallpox was eradicated in 1979 after a successful worldwide vaccination and distribution campaign. That took about 20 years, but today we have the incredible advancements in development, tracking, and distribution technology needed to eradicate diseases like COVID-19 in way less time. There's no doubt that patents hold certain protections and privileges with the way things are set up right now. But if we walk away from this pandemic, not only without valuing human life, but also without understanding what it takes to put that value into practice, what was it all for? This pandemic will not be the last one. We know that. And how we choose to respond to COVID-19 and the vaccine will determine how prepared we will be for the next one. Hi guys, hope you're all ready to hang in there for the long haul because we may have a vaccine, but this is gonna last a little while. Thanks so much for watching. So what do you guys think about waiving patents? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.